Hail Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the latest MCU film. It's quite the visual feast. And before we launch into chatting about it, Paul, general thoughts on Shang-Chi, good sir?
I enjoyed it. I had a very good time in the theater, and it was nice to be in the theater.
That's right. We were both in the theater for the first time in roughly 2 years.
Yeah. And there was several times where I was at the edge of my seat. As all the movies that I like, I think it definitely comes down to the main characters and their relationship. I was really pleased with that. Those are my feelings, my initial feelings.
Yeah. This movie, to its credit, I guess you got to mention it, got me to go to a theater. So, that's the thing. Like, I would, up until now, I was like, I'll stay at home, blah, 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 blah. But because it wasn't available on Disney Plus and whatever, I was like, okay, I'm going to go check out Shang-Chi. And I was not disappointed at all. Had a great time. I did have the reminder of like, oh yeah, people at theaters can suck. That the person just off to my right, freaking it, talking on the phone during the movie, like exciting parts of the movie. The movie is exciting generally, but anyway, so they're just like, what's that? Friday. All right, that's cool. I'm like, what are you doing? Anyway, but yeah, so I could be, if this was a Disney Plus, I'd be at home on a couch. But so I was in the theater.
Thumbs up for Shang-Chi. Thumbs down for that dude.
That's right. That's right. But it was good to watch it on the big screen, obviously. Huge advantage to that. One disadvantage, jerk off to my right.
I hear they're going to make that part of Disney Plus, unfortunately.
That's true. Just to encapsulate the whole theater experience, what we've done is we've included an annoying person to your right that will always be just out of vision, but talking really loud. You mentioned the relationships. Shang-Chi and Katie are our two friends. When we meet them, they are parking valets in San Francisco. They're both in their 20s, mid-20s. They've been friends for 10 years, it mentions it. They basically go out late night drinking and karaokeing by night, and then by day, they're parking cars. The parking cars thing obviously comes up. They're like, let's insinuate they're really, especially Awkwafina's Katie is really good at driving, so that later that'll pay off when we're not like, how does she drive so well? All right, she's a parking valet in San Francisco, so obviously she's gonna be really good at it. Obviously, then you've also got this relationship between Shang-Chi and his father. And that played out in a cool way that, it seemed to be leading to confrontation between father and son, a la, kind of a Star Wars kind of thing. And I guess actually in some ways like Star Wars, he ends up sacrificing himself to save his son. They work really hard to make the villain sympathetic. Tony Leung's Wenwu.
Yes.
Because they kind of gloss over the 1,000 years of being a warlord gangster. He finds these rings 1,000 years ago. They're ancient alien tech, as we kind of come to figure out that we don't know the origin of the rings. They mention that in a post-credit scene, like, what's the tech? What's the origin of these rings?
They sort of said that they weren't alien, but it does kind of.
Well, there weren't any alien that they are aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It could be expressed that way as well.
And so he finds these rings, uses them, to control the world.
Yes.
Look at these rings. I could use them for peace and prosperity. Boo, 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 boo.
Yeah.
So he dominates and creates this army, essentially, called the 10 Rings.
And of course, the thing that they were sort of tying up is that the introduction to this group was way back in Iron Man 1, the first Iron Man. That's
right.
We
see the image of.
That is the one responsible for kidnapping Tony Stark.
And obviously Iron Man 3, we had more chat about them. We'll talk about that in a second. With the 10 Rings, they kind of control world affairs from the shadows, essentially. But that's 1,000 years, roughly, of time where he's, a bad guy, I guess, right? I mean,
sure.
you know, he's ruling by violence and fear. He gets so powerful that he decides, you know, there's one elusive thing that I think if I could find it, it would give me more power. This hidden kingdom of Ta Lo. He figures out roughly where it might be. He goes. There's this really awesome fight sequence. The choreography is great.
Yes.
The visuals are just really stunning, and that's where you're like,
really
ooh,
nice.
movie theater, yay! He fights Ying Li. While they begin as foes, they quickly form a romantic partnership. They have 2 kids. The older one, Shang-Chi. The younger daughter, Xialing. And so,
Ying Li really has to renounce her culture and her birthplace in order to become a part of his life, because they will not accept him and his evil past. So
right, because he takes it as, oh, you just won't accept one person who's not of your kind. They're like, no, you're an incredibly evil guy and have been for 1,000 years. The other thing is, obviously, the rings, other than giving him the power to dominate, he's got a functional immortality, anyway, with the rings. So, she puts aside her past to be with him, but he, in a way, puts aside his past as well, at least temporarily. He puts the rings away, and he becomes like, I don't know if 10 Rings is just going on in the background without him. Maybe they're like, hey, Vice President, you take over. Because he is a family man. We see him doing this dance revolution.
You saw him put him into a box, so it's not like, somebody gets
Well, my
access
point
to the
being,
box.
when I say 10 Rings,
you meant the group.
The physical rings. I'm talking about the group. What is the group doing for those 10 years?
Yeah.
And they're like, I guess we're disbanded. I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, it does seem like Razor Fist was there all that time. He's like, I can go and kill people, or I can help you with the laundry. It's like, he doesn't seem like he goes anywhere. He's always there. To the point at the end of the movie, it's like, Xialing, she's, in charge, and, he's fine with that too.
Oh,
he's a very easygoing guy, that Razor Fist.
He's very easygoing. Right? He's adaptable. He took an improv class.
Yeah. He's always
so. Yes. But so what's odd, a little odd, is that if you just take the movie at face value, Wen Wu just flips a switch and it's like, I'm a good guy now. And he's for 10 years he's like, loving husband. I found joy in my life, and I love this woman and my kids, and it's great. I don't know what I was missing. And then his past catches up to him while he's away one day. Some folks that he wronged, I think rival gangsters, show up looking for revenge.
Yes.
Ying Li saves her kids, a la Shang-Chi, and sacrifices herself to do so. That makes our villain pick up the rings again for revenge. Not only goes off killing all the people that were responsible for killing his wife, but now...
Yeah, he's like,
torture
okay,
trains
I'm gonna help my son get revenge on the person that killed his mother.
I'm gonna hit him with sticks.
That's the kind of good
I'm gonna make him punch a pole until he bleeds.
He's got to kill this guy, so of course he has to be beaten with sticks.
Okay, but I would, based on what we saw, I would argue, does he? Because the sister, who feels neglected, justifiably so, she's like overlooked, but she doesn't get tortured.
Well, we don't know. We don't know that she was like, okay, now, maid and butler, beat me with sticks so I can be ready to.
Because what we learn is that she learns by watching. Right? Oh, I see what they're doing, and I'll practice it.
Right.
So she avoids the torture, just gets the skills. Anyway, and I know we're going through a story arc here, but this is kind of like what you learn in bits and pieces throughout the movie. I'm just kind of condensing it into, this is the background to the story.
This won't be 2 hours long.
Shang-Chi is now he's 14 or 15 years old. He spent 10 years in bliss, apparently, like living in the burbs or something. It's like, hey, I love my family, and now, oh God, wait, no, all right, now I'm an assassin. So for 4 years, hit with sticks. And now his dad's like, all right, your first assassination mission, kill the guy that killed your mom. And what we learn is, this is off camera, but he does, in fact, murder a guy. He murders the guy that killed his mom. And I like the fact that they went to that place.
Sure.
Until we hear that, there's an assumption that like he just bowed out. It was like, nope, I can't do it.
Yes.
But no, he had been so almost brainwashed, and the love of his dad, like wanting his dad's approval so much that he did it. But then after he kills this guy, we get the idea that the emotional trauma of that makes him run away. So he's 15, he's on the streets in San Francisco, changes his name to Sean. There's a joke about that. Like, you couldn't get farther away from Shang than Sean. But he's Sean, 15-year-old living in San Francisco. He meets up with Awkwafina's Katie. And so 10 years go by.
Yeah, and, if we're going to tell the sequence of events as they occur, as opposed to when the movie reveals it, that his sister, Xialing, thought, okay, fine, you're going on this mission, but you're going to be there for me. But no.
Right. He said he'd come back in 3 days.
Yes.
I think at the time he had the intention of doing that. But I think after he kills this guy and freaks out, he makes the choice of like, I have to leave, I have to abandon my sister as well. And so, so there is a rift between them because she doesn't get the backstory of why he left. She might not care. She might be like, you left me anyway.
Yeah.
But
and, it's interesting that they really make a point of, how much Xialing is kept apart from the culture of, what the main purpose of those 10 rings are, So they make that contrast, especially at the end of the movie. And it's an interesting thing about that character, actually, is in terms of the screen time that she had, that they did as good a job as they did is establishing her. Because, of course, it's really, Sean's story, but I think she had a very powerful role to play.
Right, and as we see in that second end credit scene, she has now stepped into her father's empire, and she is the leader of the 10 Rings going forward.
Yeah, I don't know if it's some new WWE or something, but...
right, because what she did is she ended up running an underground fight club, essentially, which it had some WWE style things where we learned that Wong, for some reason, is participating in it. I'm not sure why. Is he just trying to raise funds? I don't know, but he's one of the main fighters. And he's fighting Abomination. Yeah. Tim Roth's character from the original Hulk movie. The original MCU Hulk movie.
Yes.
And they basically have an agreement, right? They worked it out like they're professional wrestlers. Hey, you should have done this, and you went, too hard with that. Which also suggests that Abomination isn't like complete rage monster, right? Like
yes.
He can negotiate.
Yes,
and
he has
act,
enough control to be able to do that.
So it's interesting. Anyway, so but yes, she was running that ring.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things in the sort of smaller fight rooms. Somebody who perhaps may have been one of the Black Widow that was freed by Natasha Romanoff in Black Widow. There was one who was called a widow, a woman.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, and fighting somebody who had at least appearing the skin of the fighters that were associated with that tech. But he was like, kind of sparkling like those people
power.
are. Yeah.
Shang-Chi is living in secret, living somewhat of a lie, right? He hasn't telling everybody, by the way, I'm really good at martial arts, and my father is the most powerful villain in the world. And so we learned that the father like just gave him this time. He's like, I gave you 10 years. Yeah, you're back. But apparently during this time, Wenwu is trying to find a path back to Ta Lo. The idea being that Yingli isn't dead and that she's being held hostage by the residents of Ta Lo. So if he can get there, he can get his wife back. And I think that's really what the inciting incident is. Wen Wu figures out, I can now get back to Ta Lo. You know what I need? I need my kids back with me. Because we get the family back together, and my life's complete again. Everybody's happy. So that's why he... It's kind of weird, though. He sends assassins to attack his son on a bus. And then later's like, I knew they couldn't kill you. Like, okay. They tried to kill you and a whole bus full of people, but whatever, anyway. So,
who knows how it's like if you could go and try to kill him, or if they're like, okay, look, we'll go tell him, but we got to try to kill him. It's like
right. Right. I mean, I'm not Shang-Chi, so I don't know how I'd react, but I have a feeling he could at least try up front instead of trying to kill him and cut a bus in half. Maybe, hey, I know. The bridge is burned between us. Got it. But I have good reason to believe that your mom is not dead, and I need your help to get her. I think at least try that, right? I mean, like, I have a feeling you might be like, all right, this one job, I'll come back. I don't know, whatever. But just go kill my son. So anyway, cool bus fight though. The result is it's a really cool fight scene.
Yes.
So we take it. And they have all these different variables going on, including the fact that the bus is out of control, so Awkwafina has to drive the bus while the fight's going on. So everybody has to do their part. It's a lot. It's the choreography on it, very impressive for sure.
Yeah, and we got to see Zach Cherry's Clev again, who was taking video of the whole event.
Oh God, that was funny.
Yeah,
especially because of what we're doing right now. He's basically got his own Dork Lords video. He's in. I like when he was like, I did some fighting. I took a class. Let me narrate. Okay.
But of course, you saw him first in the Spider-Man Homecoming.
Nice. I'd forgotten about that, but you're absolutely right. Yeah.
He tells Peter to do a flip.
Pure comedy gold.
Yes.
Anyway, more of that guy. That's great.
He's like, my bad. I told you had it, but now this guy's got a blade in his arm. You did.
That was great.
You did, buddy.
That's great. It's so fun.
And I was trying to track him, and it didn't seem like he was moving when he should have been moving to the part of the bus where he could get his life. But of course,
true. He's so. He's much more interested in getting the film than he is in actually saving his own life, which is great, which is probably accurate. Like, I gotta get the likes. By the way, like and subscribe. Okay, no. So in addition to sending assassins who don't work, Wen Wu sends this kind of cryptic postcard that Shang-Chi assumes is from his sister, which is what sends him off after his sister.
Yes.
He ends up at the Fight Club, but it wasn't. It was Wen Wu's intent to bring them together. And there's another cool fight sequence on the scaffolding. I really enjoyed that sequence as well. There's a number of cool fight scenes, obviously, throughout this film.
Sure.
I think I prefer the earlier ones. I think I prefer like the bus. I prefer the Ta Lo original, the fight between Ying Li and Wen Wu, and I prefer the scaffold fight. I think by the time they get to the end, it reminded me a little bit of the Matrix trilogy, in that like the first Matrix, you're like, oh man, these are awesome fight scenes, and it's like one-on-one fighting, but now I know Kung Fu. But by the end, they kind of kept having to top it to the point that by the end, they're like flying around in the sky, and they're like Superman, and they're fighting, but like I kind of missed just the like little more grounded people just showing off their martial arts abilities. Anyway, just I appreciate
you're
everything
not the
about
only
this
person,
movie. But
I guess, who makes that distinction. I mean, for me, certainly I like those earlier fights, but at that point they're showing you the majesty and fighting with dragons and things like that, which is also a tradition in those early movies as well. So
I guess it's a different feel. You've got one is kind of the more physical attributes on display, and then you've got spectacle, right? And so maybe Anyway, I like them both, but I do like Simu Liu obviously knows his stuff. He's trained.
Yes.
I don't. I'm sure they had stunt doubles for some stuff and everything, but he was putting on a martial arts display.
Sure. Well, we haven't talked about the return of
Trevor Slattery.
That's right, Trevor Slattery.
I like Ben Kingsley, and I appreciated the comic relief that he provided. Mm-hmm. I would say they didn't necessarily need it. I think he was extraneous because they already had Awkwafina kind of providing comic relief. I feel like he showed up. They were trying to kind of retcon Iron Man 3 and explain away the Mandarin, but they'd already done that. Like Tony Leung, Wen-Wu had done that over like a dinner. He's like, and they called it the Mandarin, which is like a dish, and what was stupid. And that was it. I got it. Okay, that wasn't the real Mandarin, and you were the guy that they were kind of insinuating head of the 10 rings. So they maybe didn't need Trevor Slattery to add in an extra like, oh, he brought me in as a jester. Because I feel like he slows things down a bit toward later. Once he comes along with the gang, they kind of have to explain why he's there. So like, oh, Talo doesn't kill him because, oh, he's got the pig chicken and he's friends with Morris. And so, oh, it's fine. And then, oh boy, there's a big fight. He's probably dead. Oh, no, he's faking being dead. I think it was unnecessary. If I was going to cut something, I'd probably cut the last 2/3 of Trevor Slattery. Just leave him there in the prison. He gives some vital information. So you're free now. They had two folks kind of providing comic relief, and maybe they didn't need that. But that's just me. I don't know what your thoughts were on Trevor.
I was fine with it, even though he was more the fish out of water or whatever. Then some people remarked how somebody of basically Sean's background would be the person who would be a fish out of water, in the United States, but he'd been
Good
there
point.
and really, adapted well to it. So he was blending in any number of worlds. So he was, so Trevor was the one who was, in a way, I think that was the role that he played in there.
Okay.
is sort of, hey, I'm, somebody who's not from that culture, basically, who can have some contrast. So I was fine with him being there. And I liked, too, that I didn't feel like it was heavy-handed, his performance. So it wasn't like, he was foolish or whatever. He is not a fighter, but he
Right.
he is involved with people.
He's obviously a survivor.
Yes.
We'll give him that, right?
Yes.
I mean, he was broken out of prison with the intent of being executed, and he found a way to perform Macbeth or whatever and survive. So he's lived, and then he does it again. He's in the middle of a giant
sort of
fight.
like the Arabian Nights.
There you go. Exactly. Good point. This film is really almost a complete tale unto itself.
Yes.
And in lesser hands, and if we didn't know that Shang-Chi was an actual character in the comics and stuff, you could imagine this being like a non-MCU property that the MCU was like, let's just put it in the MCU. But it's not what it is. It's but it's high fantasy. You got this dragon, you got this dweller in darkness, which looks like a straight out of Cthulhu kind of thing.
In the comics, the rings came from an alien tech or whatever, but that has not yet been established in this world. So we'll see. At the end, they said, that's what they're curious about, and it may be established connected to the Eternals, but that's not yet been done.
Right, it's sending a beacon to something, and they're questioning what it's sending a beacon to. I would think that by sending a beacon, it's sending a beacon out into space, perhaps, but so it wouldn't be an earthbound thing. But I don't know, maybe.
But the fact that you have, if it's connected to the Eternals, people on the planet, they might need some sort of signal.
Yep. Yeah, so it could be connected to the Eternals, certainly. Yeah. That seems to would be tech or a group that predates a lot of this other stuff, and hence our Avengers wouldn't necessarily know about it, and like, oh, surprise. So yeah, I feel like this kind of keeps the trend in the way of moving away from science-based heroic powers. We've had Wanda and her story, and we've magic, Doctor Strange, very magic based. We've bits of the multiverse. Well, there's maybe some scientific explanations for the multiverse. There's also kind of a magical component to the whole thing. And now we've got Shang-Chi, we got Ta Lo, and so I think they're MCU is leaning heavy into like a new era. Like the Endgame era, that decade was maybe like a once in a lifetime visionary storytelling. Boom. And that was that story, and it had a beginning, middle, and an end, and it ended. And so I think I applaud MCU for not just doing another 10 years where they just set up a second Endgame. Like, it was really popular, do it again. Endgame 2. So I feel like they have made major changes to, there's a growth to the MCU. Obviously, the number of characters is growing, but
Yes.
but the style of characters, the style of a film that we're getting is different. And so, yeah, I think it's ushering in obviously they got to pay it off.
Sure.
Can they make as effective a story as the 10-year Endgame story? I don't know. It's
interesting that you frame it
order,
around magic. I don't know that, it's not like, you had Doctor Strange and Thor in the first, section of the...
Well, I take Thor out of that
really,
equation just because they did that little... Thor says, like,
but you shouldn't, though, because the way that he
magic is just science that you don't explain.
But the way they approached it, though, wasn't in terms of, science. They treated like facts of their universe, but, they had, and everything that what's-her-name was doing, Thor's sister, Hela, she was, it wasn't just about, there was.
I got you.
Magic.
Loki able to.
Loki was definitely is doing magic. So, there was that
Paul?
aspect.
It's science, Paul. You just don't understand.
I think really
it's semantics.
It's just,
you're right.
Yeah. I think it's really just expanding it more, and wanting to have characters with a rich story and finding ways to fold them all in. So. We'll see. For me, I certainly want to see more. The scenes at the end weren't necessarily. I don't feel they were especially fleshed out. This whole thing about a beacon, and it's nice to see.
The end credit scenes.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Shang-Chi and Katie and Wong all hanging out. And doing that or whatever. But, it doesn't give me a strong sense of where they're going, which is fine. But, yeah, I'll be curious to see how it's integrated and everything else. We'll see.
So we get the idea that they've joined the Avengers in that end credit scene, right? That, Wong's like, welcome to the club, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before they go karaoke. Now, this is interesting, though. I thought about this because one of the storylines is, hey, Katie and Shang-Chi, they've got these friends, and they meet them for drinks. And early in the movie, it's like, yeah, we park cars. I don't know, like, you're not doing anything with your life. And at the end, they had the meeting with the same group, and they're like, oh yeah, we just saved the world, and rode on a dragon, and of course the people don't believe them.
Yes,
you're mocking me. But I thought about a plot line that was introduced to us in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is, the fact that Sam is like, I got to get a loan. I got to sell my boat.
Yes.
Like, we don't get money from being Avengers.
Yes.
We have to have jobs. So my question is, are they still parking valets? Did they come back and were like, well, we did this thing?
Actually, certainly hope so. In terms of Shang-Chi, with his sister taking over the 10 rings, that's no longer a threat to him. It's not like he, they sort of only make it seem like he's hiding from his father. So it's not like we anticipate other people coming to get him. Although I guess though, the people, the family of the person he killed, I guess, before going into seclusion.
It all comes back around. I mean, what I would imagine is a plot line that would come for the second one is that the 10 rings are doing something that Shang-Chi has to stop. And so it'll put him in opposition to his sister. Like, hey, we don't have any grudge, but don't get in my way. he's on opposite sides.
We'll see. I don't know. I wonder if what they were really teasing was a Disney Plus series with the 10 Rings. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So wait, you were saying though you feel like you hope that he is still a valet? Is that what you're saying? Still part of the valet?
Yeah. I think they should. There are a number of things about this movie that I would hope they would explore more. As an example, I mentioned to you earlier that I don't see there's any reason not to bring back Wen Wu in a flashback, just to have a little more, with that character. And also, it's like, they may never ever show us that event when Sean, kills whoever he killed, but I'd like to see that,
Right.
The
emotion.
While it's not like we have any other characters that are like them, I feel, it's like these people who are like, we want to slack. We're not ambitious. We just want to live a life and have fun.
I mean, it's kind of like it's like Lion King, right? Where he goes Hakuna Matata. He goes off. He's like, I just want to slack, and they're like, no, you shouldn't slack.
Yes.
Go back and avenge your dad. They're like, okay, fine.
Yes.
Anyway,
yeah.
You can slack.
We have one person denying the throne with Thor. But it's not like he's probably going to be on a journey of self-discovery, but it's not like, I'm just trying to live a life and have fun, maybe it was setting up for wanting adventure. Maybe that's what he's going to want now, but I like the idea of someone who, is just trying to live their lives,
Are you talking about in What If the party Thor that we're about to meet, or?
No.
Oh,
I mean, he renounced at the end of Endgame. He renounced his throne or whatever.
Yep. Just going to go off with the Guardians.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's probably going to need a part-time job because he's going to be like, oh, Wong's going to show up with the ring. And like, come on, we need you. Okay, but I got to.
There are a number of hotels
I'm working till 7.
Flexible work times.
That's right. So we'll see a whole movie about that. Him like applying for a new job.
It's like, please, I just need you to take my schedule for tonight. Like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm trying to write up my resume. Let me go to a recruiter.
I can get you a job at Stark Tower, just please.
We just created the most boring Shang-Chi sequel of all time. Compelling characters, beautiful choreography. The fight scenes are very compelling. Completely new story. Yeah, it's a hit. It's a hit on all levels, and it did really well this weekend too. It basically doubled expectations more or less for what it was going to do on this opening long weekend.
Yes.
So great for that. That's good for movie theaters. I mean, it's just it's quality all the way around. If you're debating going to see it, Paul and I, gave up our "we'll never go to theaters again" pledge, which we didn't make, to go see this movie. So if you can do it safely, go check out Shang-Chi. Excellent film. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.